discovered this not too long ago, and I just want to get this out there to get people looking into this and reading about it and researching it, because I feel it's a big deal and nobody really talks about this or knows. Yeah, it's not talked about. And the people I've talked to, nurses, doctors, specialists, they have no idea this exists. Even nurses or people who go to homes or that work at vicinities or facilities and have other people there, whether it's older folks or disabled or whatever the case is, they don't know about this. When I bring this up, it's like, wow, I didn't know it was that, really. I thought it was all taken care of, But anyways, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Medicare. I feel it's a theft from Medicare, and it's a false sort of security blanket for the most part. And I want to introduce that. So anyone who is too old or disabled or whatever, and they get put in a home, old folks home, or maybe it's something for their health, they can no longer be taken care of at home, or whatever the case is, or they're too old and they have no one to live by them or around them, or maybe they're out of state and they go to a home, a medical facility, that kind of stuff. So they're there all the time, or maybe they go there for 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day, or maybe they have people come out to their home, that kind of stuff, whether it's a bi-weekly thing or every day thing, or once a month, or whatever the case is. The more time you spend there, the more people that come out, the more and more it's going to affect you, or it could. So, and I'm not saying it's going to affect everyone. Everyone has older parents, whether they're still living with us or not, or still around, or whatever. And everyone's going to get old for the most part. So this will become reality, and is my perspective. And how it's dealt with, I think people need to be aware of it. So I'm talking about, I want to read some different stuff from this, but the omnibus budget that was passed in the Act of 1993. So OBRA 1993. That's the Medicare benefits is what's affected here. Congress has required states to try to recover the cost of Medicaid benefits from the estates of certain nursing home residents and older persons receiving home and community-based services. So that could be also disabled, that kind of stuff like you talked about. This law applies to individuals who were age 55 or older when they received Medicaid. So it doesn't have to apply there, like I said. Maybe there's an autistic person who's in their 40s and they're stuck to do this, or they're forced to do this, or whatever the case is, or a disabled person, that kind of stuff like I talked about. So that's one clip. Third, so what did I say? They're forced to recover that money. So what does that mean? Well, does this mean that if people avoid probate, they'll be fine? They'll be able to avoid Medicaid estate recovery? Well, what we're talking is Medicaid comes in and says that, well, if your family doesn't have money, you don't have money, your spouse doesn't have money, that kind of stuff. Once they pass, then they can go to the family, go to the state. If the family's left the estate or left whatever from the family, they can go to that and take from it till they become whole, like they want to put it, until they get their funds back, because they're forced from the federal government on a state-by-state basis to do this. So it says no. So this is, what does this mean? If people can avoid this by avoiding probate, if they are kept out of this, and the answer is no. States can expand the definition of estate to include any property in which an individual had any legal title or interest at the time of death, including assets passed outside probate. A state can define this property to include joint bank accounts with a pay on death beneficiary designation, living trusts. So living trusts, if you have a trust, anything in a trust, it's not safe because they can change the definition. States can change the definitions of things. Life estates and real property and real estate held in joint tenancy. This suggests that the state can recover from surviving joint tenants and transfers of property with reserved life estate. This is a major change in the law because the definition includes property interests that are extinguished by the death of an owner and are otherwise unavailable to creditors. So they can change the definition. I'm saying this over and over because it's ridiculous that because the state is forced to get the stuff, the federal government comes in and says you need to get paid back, you need to become whole, you need to do this and that. You can change definitions of stuff. You can change definitions that are in contracts. You can change definitions. That's on its nose should be flat on the surface. But anyways, so what's exactly an estate? Under probate laws, an estate is usually defined as all real estate and personal property that passes from a deceased person to an heir through a will or by rules of the interstate succession. Property that passes directly to joint owners or beneficiaries under a trust is normally not considered part of the probate estate. However, OBRA 93 gives states the option to expand the definition of estate to include these types of interests and any other property that the individual has, any title or interest at the time of death. So again, they can change the definition. What is a claim against an estate? A claim against an estate is a demand for payment from a creditor who believes the deceased person owes the creditor money in estate recovery under ORBA or OBRA 93. The request comes from the state Medicaid agency, and the amount owed is all or some of the amount Medicaid payments spent on the behalf of the deceased medical beneficiary. So we got, do states have the right to recover money from the estates of everyone who received Medicaid? So the answer to that is individuals who are age 55 and older and other circumstances like you talked about. When they receive Medicaid, a state must recover payments for nursing facility services, home and community-based service provided under Medicaid waiver, and related hospital and prescription drug services, and individuals in nursing facilities, intermediate care facilities for the mentally retarded, or other medical institutions who pay a share of the cost of a condition of receiving Medicaid and who cannot reasonably be expected to be discharged and return home. This provision requires that the state determine, after notice of an opportunity for a hearing, that the individual cannot reasonably be expected to return home. So I got one more little thing to read here from this, but I think on its face, like I said, this is ridiculous and this is theft and this is nothing but lies. So everyone thinks Medicare is okay, Medicaid is safe because no one pays for Medicaid. Well, you do, and you're gonna. Whether you end up doing it while you're alive or once you die, people that are related to are gonna pay. They're gonna pay for this. One way or the other, they're gonna get their money because they're forced to. The federal government says you're forced to. Tells the states you have to, and this is treated differently in different states. Some states are more lenient and try to not bring down the hammer. Other states bring down the hammer and maybe another hammer. And you fill in the blank with those. So you got your California, your New York, that kind of stuff. Your Illinois, Michigan, and the other ones that try to stay out of the limelight and stay out of the tyranny that this may really involve or is. Your Dakotas, your South, your North Dakota, some of the southern states that still have a freer philosophy kind of deal, they still try to not do the full force and gamut of this. So, estate recovery. OBRA 93 requires each state to recover the costs of nursing facilities and other long-term care services from the estates of Medicaid beneficiaries. That's what I talked about. This means that states must try to get reimbursed for money they spend through the Medicaid program. At a minimum, the states are required to file claims in probate court against the estates of certain deceased Medicaid beneficiaries. At a minimum, they're forced to do that. So, what exactly is an estate? So I went over that, and I think it's just crazy how they can change definitions of stuff. Definitions of contracts. A contract that was written, maybe it was written in, this was passed in 93, it was written in, contract that was written in 98, and you want to fast forward to 2008 or 2018? I mean, a decade, decades later, decade and a half later, they can change the definition of that. So they can come in and steal, they can take. And they're like, well, no, you owe, so we're going to get back what we spent. You guys didn't spend anything. The state spends nothing because they have nothing to spend. All they can do is take from somebody else to give to somebody else. And usually the person who gets the bulk of that are their friends, other politicians, the people, that are deemed okay. Those are the ones who get everything off the top. And then maybe it'll be a trickle down where the people who are suffering or the people who are the ones that are forced to pay this stuff maybe get a little bit, if that. But usually it's a facade, just like the fiat system, the Federal Reserve note, the US dollar. It's all a fiat system. Nothing exists. But as long as people believe in it and have confidence, it's going to keep going and going, and they can take more and more and more. But anyways, I don't know if this affects you or not, or some of you know, but I just thought this was crazy when I ran across this, and I was looking at this, I was reading more and more of this. This was the thing. It's the OBRA 1993 OBRA Act, and that's when this was signed in. It was a reality, and I've never heard anyone talk about it, really, and I was just like, it just blew my mind. I think everyone should look into this, and if they want to put up a stink or something, now's the time. I mean, it's actually late, of course, because this was years ago, decades ago that this went through. But now's still the time to do what we can to stop this. But anyways, I want to thank you for watching this. If you like this, like, share, subscribe. And as always, stay vigilant with yourself, your family, with the help